All right. UIL realignment. It was Thursday. It was nuts. Thanks to everybody who tuned into our UIL realignment special. It was a massive success. We do appreciate you guys. I think part of the reason it was a massive success is because a lot of coaches and a lot of students and players were sitting at home. Like they were kind of snowed in. So thanks, regardless of why you tuned in. We do appreciate you tuning in.
He said it stayed the same. So you're just wrong on all cases.
Maybe I am. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the thing about realignment and doing a live show on realignment is that this huge chunk of data gets dropped in your lap.
Yeah.
And your job is to just kind of go through it as quickly as you can.
Yeah, you don't get bits and pieces. You get
the
whole entree.
Whole thing.
No chips and dips.
All at once. Yeah, there's no chips and dips. They just bring out the entire botana platter right then. Okay? And so I spent the weekend, the long weekend, because we didn't do a show Friday. I spent the long weekend kind of going over it and thinking through things. I also talked it over with Step. We have a long episode, nearly 100 minutes of Tep and Step breaking down realignment.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And I have some more thoughts on realignment, some bigger picture thoughts. And so we're going to call this, upon further review, UIL realignment. So I've got 5 thoughts I want to throw at you.
Okay.
My first thought, no small changes. After kind of consuming realignment as a whole, the headline for me is that overall, it was pretty chalky.
Yeah.
Overall, the UIL didn't make... There were a lot of changes the UIL could have made that they didn't. That a lot of the core of a lot of districts stayed the same. Yeah. A lot of the core of a lot of regions stayed the same. A lot of the core of what Texas high school football looked like did stay the same. On balance, overall. But when the UIL did make changes, they went, and I don't want to use a medical term here, so I won't talk over your head, but they went buck wild. They went nuts.
Yeah.
The UIL, when they made changes, they fundamentally shifted things around. That, okay, for example, 3A Division 1, okay? We're all sitting there marveling, oh my gosh, Franklin and Lorena in the same district. Can you believe it? We get plus they're in there with Cameron, and Rockdale, and Little River Academy, and Troy. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Look at 11 3A Division 1. Unbelievable. But once you get past that, you take a look and you go, oh, well, none of the existing 3A Division 1 teams changed regions. They all stayed the same.
Yep.
So fundamentally, the shape of 3A Division 1 didn't really change. 4A Division 2, I think, is another good example. 4A Division 2, you look at a lot of the core of a lot of districts, largely the same. Obviously, there are teams moving up, there are teams moving out, things like that. There's always going to be that. But they didn't jumble it all up and try different things.
Right.
A lot of it stayed the same. But they did take Carthage
and put them on the
and move them to the other side of the bracket.
Yep.
Which is like a massive power shift.
Yep. That's literally, I think flipping someone like that to the whole other side of the bracket is the biggest shift you can make.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, going from District 9 to District 8 is like the biggest change you can make.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I think is interesting. There were no little tweaks. They were either pretty much the same or just
an explosion.
Like, we're going to lob a grenade into it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So, to me, there were no small changes in the UIL realignment. Number 2, shifting district centers. A lot of this has to do, in my opinion, with Central Texas. Because Central Texas is in a weird spot in UIL realignment. They're right there in the middle, and they're kind of...
You're forced to make a directional change.
Do you know what it is? You ever play Uno?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You know what it is? It's like the wild card in Uno where you can play any color you want. Central Texas is the wild card. Central Texas can get sent anywhere.
Yep.
Central Texas can be put in Region 1. They can get put in, I mean, as we see, like Killeen is in region, the Killeen schools are in Region 1. They can get put in Region 2. They can get put in Region 3. They can get put in Region 4.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily saying that means that they're going to be traveling 600 miles for something. It just means that they could go any which way.
It's just the way that it is. And so what I think is interesting is that they took a couple of districts that were largely that were centered in one place, and they moved the center of it.
Yep.
I'll give you an example. 11-6A is an interesting example. It's a district of doom.
Yep.
Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill.
The I-20 corridor.
Right. The past couple of years, they've had Waco, and they've had... Was it Waco or Waco U?
It was Midway.
Midway and Waco,
And Waco, yeah.
Waco. They basically turned 11-6A into much more... there's no doubt where the center of that is now. It is South DFW.
Yep.
Okay, that's where it is. It's not South DFW and Central Texas and stuff like that. So what they did was they took Midway and they sent them south to Temple, to Hutto, to Pflugerville Weiss and stuff like that.
Which they're excited about.
They made that a more central Texas district, and they put Midway in there instead of making them into a DFW district.
Instead of having to go up 35 every single week.
Another example is District 7-5A Division 1. 7-5A Division 1 in the past was kind of that hybrid between East Dallas and East Texas, right? So Longview,
Mesquite,
and the Mesquite schools, right? Kind of one of there. Now what they've done, I would say that because they added in McKinney North and they added in Lufkin, they have kind of shifted the center a little bit, I think, southeast a little bit.
Yeah.
And so there's a district, that is a district that the midpoint has changed.
Yeah.
In a lot
into
of
more of the piney woods, I would say, rather than...
Right, exactly right. I would also, you look at a district like, obviously what happened with Corpus Christi, Flower Bluff, and Gregory Portland.
Yes.
Right, where they get sent to the Rio Grande Valley. That is basically the coastal bend. They are lumping them in with the Rio Grande Valley. And by the way, they did that a couple of times in a couple of different places.
Right.
They have said the centralized point of the state is in the Rio Grande Valley. You guys can be magnetic to there instead of us sending those teams to you.
Right.
If that makes sense. So that's what I think is particularly interesting there, as these district centers have shifted a little bit. Thought number 3. Hard and soft landings. So when the Bolts are flying on Thursday, you can't look at every team that was getting moved up, moved down, and things like that. You can't look at all those things. But there certainly are teams that I think got a pretty decent draw despite moving up. Right? Moving up in classification, they got a pretty decent draw.
And this is just transparently calling it how it is.
Exactly right. That's just my opinion. I mean, you can argue with me, you cannot. Salina moved up to 4A Division 1. They get in with a Dallas ISD district. They get in, their region, I think, is about the same as it was last time.
Yep.
And I think that overall, if you're Salina, you're pretty pleased with how things turned out. I would look at a team...
Highland Park landing in that district with Irving and Richardson, pretty darn good. I think they're pretty good. Argyle, I think, got a pretty solid. I think they got a pretty solid landing there. There's not a whole lot to complain about where they landed. Okay, I would also add in a team, and maybe this is something that maybe this is just me spending the weekend thinking about it. But I would look at a team like Medina Valley. Medina Valley moved up to 5A Division 1. Medina Valley ends up landing in District 13 5A Division 1. And so they're going to be in with the San Antonio Laredo and San Antonio Southwest and San Antonio Southwest Legacy, all those things. And by the way, in one district, I just want to point this out. District 13 5A Division 1. San Antonio Southside, San Antonio Southwest, South San Antonio Southwest Legacy. Thanks, guys. Thanks, UIL. That'll be easy for me to sort through. I definitely won't get those confused. Those are some teams that I think ended up getting a pretty decent landing despite moving up. Right.
There are also teams that I think maybe moved down that maybe didn't get, or rather, let's talk about some teams that maybe did get a tougher landing.
Right, and it's funny because a lot of times when you think about moving down in classification, you think that the competition is going to be easier regardless, and then they get thrown in the blender, and it's like...
Now, here's some teams that moved up that I think got it about as bad as they could have. Forest South Hills. Hills moved up 5A Division 2 to 5A Division 1. They're in with Alito and Denton Ryan. That's about worst case scenario.
Yes.
Right?
Beaumont United. Beaumont United moves up from 5A Division 1. They are now in the district with Galena Park, North Shore, Atascocita.
Yeah, nothing to worry about, right?
Leander Glen. Leander Glen, another one. Them and Eastview, Georgetown Eastview.
Yep.
They both move up into 5A Division 1 from 5A Division 2. They get in with College Station, Cedar Park, A&M Consolidated.
Which is
Georgetown.
such a fun district,
Brutal.
but not where the other people want to land.
Right. But then there's other teams that I think they were looking around and they were saying, hey, you know what? We're dropping down. Things are going to be okay for us.
Yep.
I think an example of that is Skidmore-Tynan. Skidmore-Tynan's a 3A Division 2 team dropping down to 2A Division 1. Awesome. Okay.
Woo-hoo,
We
let's
finally get
go.
to be the big fish in the small pond.
Yep.
Who's in our district? Shiner
Refugio.
Ganeto. Like, that's brutal. That's brutal.
Yep.
Plain and simple. There's no two ways about it.
You're fighting for fourth place almost at that point.
That is a brutal place to land. I would look at a place like we mentioned it, but the Dallas ISD teams that were dropping down from 4A Division 1 to 4A Division 2. Dallas Roosevelt and Dallas Lincoln. Like those programs, I think, have got to feel like, what did we do to deserve this? They get lumped in with where'd they end up? They ended up in with the districts with Quinlan Ford and Sunnyvale and Caddo Mills. Pretty tough, right? So just because you're moving down,
It's a lot of travel too.
Exactly right. Just because you're moving down does not mean that things got a little bit easier. Newcastle's another example.
Yep.
Newcastle drops down from 1A Division 1 to 1A Division 2. Big fish in a small pond. You get Strawn in your district. I mean, that is pretty brutal. So, depending on classification changes, there were some hard landings and some soft landings. Thought number 4, the RGV's moment. I don't want to go too crazy about this. Okay? I don't want to go, put undue pressure on teams.
Right.
But when I take a look at 5A, and most especially when I take a look at 5A Division 1, I am not sure that the Rio Grande Valley has ever had an opportunity like this to make
some noise.
Make some noise. Okay?
Yeah.
Here are a complete list of the teams, the non-Rio Grande Valley teams that advanced past the second round of the playoffs last year that are in Region 4 of 5A Division 1. Here's a complete list. Are you ready? Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial. End of list.
And they struggled last year.
Who?
Corpus Christi Vets.
Oh, no. That was a team that made the quarterfinals.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I know, but they were like, they weren't what they used to be by their standards. Yes.
That's it. By getting a second district in 5A Division 1, the Rio Grande Valley now comprises half of Region 4. Okay? And by the way, it's a lot of the Corpus schools, and it's the schools that have, the Miller is going to be there as well. They had a disappointing year last year, but Miller, I would look at it, but remember, they're moving up, right?
Yeah.
A full classification. Corpus Christi Vets.
And then they're lumped
And then
in
it's a
with
bunch of San
Laredo.
Antonio teams.
Yep.
Right? I don't know if the Rio Grande Valley and a team like Harlingen South or a team like Edinburgh Vela or a team like PSJA North or a team like McAllen Memorial or a team like Brownsville Vets, I don't know if these teams are going to have an opportunity like this to reach a state semifinal that they have right now for the next 2 years. This is a pretty good draw for 5A teams in Rio Grande Valley. And my final thought is non-district scramble. One thing that I think is interesting, and another thing that, again, because the bullets are flying on Thursday, you don't even think about it. Going into the realignment, coaches have a guess. They may not tell you that. They may say, oh, we'll go wherever. They have a guess. They think they know where they're going. And they think they know what their district is going to look like. And most importantly, perhaps, they think they know how many teams are going to be in their district. And why does that matter? It matters because you got to fill out a schedule.
Right.
And if you've got 7 teams in a district, and if you think you're going to be in an 8-team district and there's only 7, you got to find one more non-district game.
Yep.
If you think you're going to be in a 17 district, you end up in 8, you may have to cancel on somebody.
And most coaches say that 8-team districts are perfect. You have the three non-district games, and then you move on into district play, and it's like that does not work for everyone.
And as a result, you're seeing Twitter kind of blow up with coaches saying, I'm looking for a week 1, I'm looking for a week 4, I'm looking for a week 7, whatever. And you're getting some weird matchups.
Let's talk about Gunner.
Gunner's going to open against Bishop in Pflugerville on Saturday. Bishop, if you don't know, is down on like the coastal bend.
Yeah, it's
like
if you took the toll roads, it was still like a 6-hour and 49-minute drive or something like that.
They're going to meet in the middle in Pflugerville, right? How about Nevada Community is going to play Dallas Lincoln in a state semi, or rather in a non-district contest? Now we all go gaga over kind of the big fun matchups that teams are putting together. They're putting together unbelievable schedules. South Oak Cliff's going to play Duncanville,
Lancaster.
They're playing
DeSoto. They're literally playing the I-20 corridor.
They're bowing up with everybody. Those are fun. What I think is going to be interesting is the scramble that goes on right now to find non-district dance partners for teams, for schools that maybe we're not anticipating to have to fill this many slots.
Well, and it's funny, too, because we talked about it, like when a program that is historically incredibly good is scrambling to find another person to play. There are a lot of schools that want to bow up and go try and do that, but there are a lot of coaches that recognize, is it better for us to schedule an opponent that isn't historically that dominant, so that way our kids can go out there and kind of learn stuff rather than just get their teeth pounded in and it be like, okay, why did we do that type of thing? So it's funny to see the big powerhouses looking.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a balance. It's one of those things that everybody's got to play until they get punched in the mouth. And the UIL punched a lot of teams in the mouth on Friday. Or on Thursday, rather. There it is. Some more realignment thoughts. We're going to have a ton of stuff up on TexasFootball.com. Winners and losers and all that fun stuff. Toughest districts, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get into all of that throughout the course of the offseason and this week here on TexasFootball.com.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.